If you're thinking about buying your first home, you're probably feeling totally overwhelmed. And guess what? You're not alone. I recently spoke to Molly and Sam, who after years of saving were finally ready to take the plunge into home ownership, but instead of excitement, they were drowning in anxiety and fear of the unknown. They were excited to find their first home, but shifting from the savings mentality to the reality of a big debt and budgeting for repayments really freaked them out, to the point where they thought about delaying the purchase for another year, feeling like they weren't mentally ready. To help with this, we worked through the numbers, but the emotional side, that's where the real fear was. Molly even shared that her parents had never even owned a home, and it left her feeling like she didn't belong, what she called her home ownership imposter syndrome. In this video, I want to share Molly and Sam's journey with you, because if you're feeling like they did, I'll show you how we tackled the fear of the unknown, the specific resources that helped them, and some encouragement that will carry you through the process no matter how daunting it feels. By the end of this video, you're going to feel ready, confident, prepared to turn your dream of home ownership into reality. But before we jump in, it'd be a dream come true for me if you hit that like button. It means a massive amount to the channel, and if you want to get more content like this, think about hitting the subscribe just below. All right, so let's jump right in. Let's tackle one of the biggest fears first home buyers face: commitment anxiety. It's that nagging feeling in the pit of your stomach saying, am I really ready for this? This fear typically breaks down to three major concerns: the long-term nature of a mortgage, being tied to location, and lifestyle changes that come with home ownership. Let's unpack each of these. A 30-year mortgage can sound like a lifetime, especially if you're in your 20s and 30s. But let's try and flip that and think of it as a long-term investment in yourself. Each mortgage payment is like putting money into your own pocket. On a $700,000 home, using the 5% government home guarantee scheme and the current interest rate, your monthly repayment might be around $4,100. In the first year, around $650 a month of that goes towards building equity in your home. That's $7,900 in the first year alone that you're essentially paying back to yourself. Fast forward 5 years, you've almost paid $50,000 off that loan off. It's a great way to have some forced savings. Now let's address a big one: the fear of being stuck in one place. In an increasingly mobile world where you see people traveling on Instagram every day, the idea of being tied down can be pretty daunting. Enter Sarah, a 29-year-old marketing executive who loved the idea of home ownership but worried it would clip her wings. She found a pretty creative solution that might work for you as well. Sarah bought a 2-bedroom apartment in a popular suburb here in Brisbane. When she travels for extended periods, she rents out the second bedroom or even the entire apartment on Airbnb, so she can have a bit of a best of both worlds. Not only does this cover her mortgage repayments, even sometimes it can generate extra income. So here are some ways to maintaining flexibility as a homeowner. If you are concerned about this, think about choosing a property in a high rental demand area that could be easy to rent out. It could mean you might only need to live there for 12 months and turn it into an investment property, making you feel less likely to be tied down by that home. Remember, owning a home doesn't mean you're stuck. It means you have a stable base to return to after all your adventures. Lifestyle changes. Home ownership comes with new responsibilities. No more calling the landlord when something breaks, but it also comes with newfound freedoms. Want to paint the walls hot pink? Go for it. Dreaming of a vegetable garden? The backyard or balcony is yours to transform. These changes can be exciting, but they require a bit of financial preparation, which brings me to the most important point: financial readiness. How much deposit do you need? The good news is you probably need less deposit than you think. In most cases, using the home guarantee scheme, you can buy a home with as little as a 5% deposit. So for example, on a $700,000 home, that's only $35,000. And if you live in a number of states like Queensland and New South Wales, the stamp duty is actually waived for first home buyers under certain purchase prices. So if you bought that home for $700,000, you'd save a further $20,000 in stamp duty costs. Now there's some other cases using government schemes where you potentially buy with as little as a 2% deposit. This applies to single parents using the family home guarantee scheme. For more info on that, hit us up at huntergalloway.com.au. Can you afford the repayments? When looking at your borrowing power, lenders look at your ability to service the loan. In other words, they want to be sure you can make regular repayments. They'll consider your income, expenses, other debts you might have, and potential interest rate rises. So when you are trying to work out how much you can afford, try and leave a bit of buffer or some savings left over at the end to cover repayments if you have some unexpected expenses come up. We'll come back to that in a sec. For example, if your home loan repayments on a $500,000 loan at 6.5% at $3,200 per month, could you still manage if the interest rates rose by 0.5%? The repayments increased by about $100 a month. That's the kind of scenarios the lenders and you need to think about in the future. Overcoming commitment anxiety. Remember, it's normal to feel some anxiety about such a big commitment. Here's some strategies to help. Firstly, educate yourself. The more you understand about the process, the less daunting it can become. Check out videos on this channel to help with that. Start small. If a house seems overwhelming with a yard and all those extra things to think about, consider an apartment as your first step on the property ladder. It can be a lot lower maintenance and less headaches if you're concerned about that. Think longer term. Visualize where you want to be in 5, 10, 20 years. Does home ownership align with those goals? And lastly, don't be afraid to seek advice. Chat to a mortgage broker like us. We can offer you personalized solutions and just give you the numbers without even having to go through the next steps, so you can understand where you're at and where you can get to. Commitment to home ownership isn't about limiting your future. It's about creating a stable foundation for whatever that future might hold. What's your biggest concern about committing to a home? Share in the comments below. I'd love to know and discuss how we can help you overcome it. Now let's tackle the big elephant in the room: money. It's normal to feel a little queasy when it comes to the financial side of buying a home. After all, it's likely the biggest purchase you're ever going to make. When budgeting for a home, a lot of people just focus on the deposit and mortgage repayments. But there's a little bit more to consider on that, so let's break down the costs you might come across. The deposit, mortgage repayment, lender fees, inspection fees, stamp duty, legal costs, moving expenses, home and contents insurance, council rates, and ongoing maintenance and repairs. That seems like a lot, but let me break it down. Meet Tom. We helped him with his home and thought he had it all figured out until he didn't. Tom got in touch with us. He found a $750,000 property and saved up to 10% deposit or 75 grand. He thought he was all set and ready to go, but here's how the actual costs break down. Deposit, $75,000. Stamp duty, $10,925. Now this amount will vary on the state and depending on what concessions you got available. Tom was based in Queensland and got a partial discount on the stamp duty being a first home buyer. Transfer duty, another government fee, $3,000. Rough lender fees, $500. Building and pest inspection, $600. Legal fees, $2,000, including searches. Moving costs, $1,000, and insurance, $1,000, say for the first year. Total upfront costs, $93,970. Tom only had $75,000, so he quickly had to find another $18,000 to cover these additional expenses. We also had the choice of increasing his loan a little bit, but the lender's mortgage insurance costs were pretty high, so he just borrowed some money from family to cover these unexpected costs. The key takeaway here is try and budget a little bit more than what you need. A good rule of thumb, if you're in the saving stage, is to add another 5% to the value of the property to have some extra savings to cover those costs. Have you encountered any unexpected costs in your property journey? I'd love to know. Share a comment below. Your experience could help other buyers avoid these surprises. Now let's look at some of the ways to ease the financial burden to buying your first home. Government schemes. There are a bunch of government schemes that are designed to help first home buyers into the market. The First Homeowners Grant. The First Homeowners Grant is a nationally funded scheme and the amount depends on location. In effect, it's a lump sum. It's an amount that the government will give you towards building or buying a brand new home that's never been lived in. The grant amounts range from $10,000 to $30,000 depending on the state. There's usually property values and caps that apply. For example, in Queensland, first home buyers can receive up to $30,000 towards building a brand new home or a unit that's never been lived in under $750,000. And just to be clear, this is not available on existing properties, only on brand new properties. The First Home Guarantee Scheme. The First Home Guarantee Scheme, which was previously known as a first home loan deposit scheme, is a massive game changer for a lot of first home buyers around Australia. Here's how it works. It allows first time home buyers to buy with as little as a 5% deposit. In the background, the government guarantees up to 15% of your property value. So it means you don't need to get mum and dad or any friends and family involved to avoid paying lender's mortgage insurance, which will save you literally tens of thousands of dollars. There are some requirements to be eligible. You need to be a first home buyer or not have owned a home in the last 10 years. Your income needs to be under $125,000 if you're buying on your own, or $200,000 combined as a couple. And there are a bunch of different price caps depending on your region. Check our website for more details on this. There are some other government initiatives to help you save, mostly around stamp duty concessions for first home buyers. Like I mentioned in the example before, you can save tens of thousands of dollars by not paying stamp duty as a first home buyer. There's a First Home Super Saver Scheme. It allows you to save your deposit within your superannuation and pay less tax. If you're unsure on the eligibility, hit us up on our free assessment on our website and we can go through what you can potentially get when you're looking to buy your first home. Another massive fear that tackles first home buyers is the fear of making the wrong choice. That can be by choosing the wrong property, buying at the wrong time, or experiencing buyer's remorse. And I see this all the time. You might rush out and think, now's the time, I better go buy. You buy a place only to realize that it's too small, the neighbors are noisy, and there's issues, and you'll want to move out soon after. Let me show you how to tackle this. Meet James. I recently helped him. He's 32 years old from Perth. He spent months going through the finest details, agonizing over every property he looked at online. But at the same time, always convinced there was going to be a better option around the corner. By the time he got in touch with me, he'd spent the previous 2 years looking online, having felt like he'd just missed out, and just pretty much paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong choice. Here's how I helped James work through this. I sent James his buyer's brief. This is a document that we send to a lot of first-time buyers we work with to help set a clear criteria of the must-haves and the nice-to-haves. For James, he was looking for a 3-bedroom minimum within 10 k's of the CBD, close to public transport, and ideally under $600,000. The second thing, doing thorough research. Previously, James was just looking casually online. After we set that criteria, we set up his alerts on domain and realestate.com.au. I also walked him through some of our researching processes, which will include some links below. But one of his biggest concern was market timing. And after seeing some crazy property growth in the Perth market, he was wondering, is now the right time to buy, or is the market about to drop off? It's really not uncommon. One of the first questions he asked is, well, what if the price drops right after I buy? Here's how we tackled that. Firstly, we looked at the current market conditions. We looked at recent sales data in his targeted areas. He noticed that prices had started to stabilize after some pretty rapid periods of growth. This suggests that the market was starting to level out. Next, we looked at his personal finances. He felt like he had some financial stability. He was in a stable job, had a good savings buffer, and was comfortable with the repayment amounts we were walking through. At the end of the day, no one's got a crystal ball, and trying to perfectly time the market is nearly impossible. The best time to buy is really when you're financially ready and when you find a property that aligns with those needs. In James's case, this, he decided to buy because he found a property that ticked all his boxes based on his buyer's brief. The research showed that the area had good long-term growth potential. He had a view for 10 to 20 years on how he wanted to hold that property and eventually turn it to an investment. And he was financially prepared and comfortable with the financial commitment. His plan was to rent out a bedroom or two in a year's time, so once that extra rent came in, he was easily covering the repayments. Now let's talk about that other fear that crops up right before making an offer: buyer's remorse. That's the worry that you might regret your decision after you've already committed. Let's go through a couple of strategies to try and minimize this. Firstly, take your time. Don't rush a decision, sleep on it if you need to. A lot of agents in the market now are trying to rush, get a decision, get an offer, present it to people and properties are selling. If you're feeling too rushed, that's fine. Take a pause, take a step back and reassess your options. That's where the buyer's brief can be really handy because you're going to know if the property meets your criteria, if it's your dream home, and you're not going to regret making that decision because you already know what you're looking for. Second thing, get a second opinion. Where possible, get your friends and family involved. A second set of eyes can help you notice things you might have overlooked and really minimize that buyer's remorse. Thirdly, visualize your life there. Imagine your daily routine. Think about getting ready for work, your commute, how it's going to look. Does it make you feel excited or do you feel depressed about sitting on the train for 2 hours to get back and forth from work? And lastly, understand that no property is perfect. Every home's going to have some compromises, but focus on what matters most to you, the must-haves rather than the need-to-haves. And if you're still not sure on the property, try and work through these questions. Firstly, does the property meet my must-have criteria? Secondly, is it in my budget? Thirdly, have I done all my inspections, my due diligence and research, and am I comfortable with the property? Fourth, can I see myself living here for at least 5 years? And fifth, does it have the potential for growth? If you can answer yes to all these questions, you're definitely on the track to making the right choice. And as I said earlier, there's no such thing as the perfect property. It's about finding the right home for you at this point in your life. What's your biggest worry when it comes to choosing the right property? Share in the comments below. Your question might help other viewers. Process overwhelm. I think this is probably one of the biggest ones. The home buying journey can feel like navigating a maze blindfolded, can't it? But don't worry, I'm here to break it down into really manageable steps. The first step is saving for your deposit. Without your deposit, it's going to be pretty tricky to buy a home without the help of some parents or a guarantor. If you're still in the saving stage, think about the First Home Super Saver scheme to try and boost up that savings and get you there quicker. If you got your savings ready, great job. It's time to chat to a mortgage broker about a pre-approval. A lot of home buyers will reach out to us in that process to understand what their budget is. Sometimes it's much more than they realize, or sometimes not quite as much. Getting a clear understanding of your budget will help you move on to the next step, researching and inspecting properties. Now, I'd suggest creating a spreadsheet and comparing properties based on your criteria. For some people, I've seen this process take up to 2 years. So take the time up front, create your buyer's brief, and then have a clear idea on what you want in that home. Next step, making offers and negotiation. From the chat with your mortgage broker, you should have an understanding of your maximum price and try and stick to that. When you start the negotiation, expect a lot of back and forth, and it's just part of the process. The next step is getting a formal loan approval. This is where your mortgage broker will take your accepted contract. Congratulations, you got the home. We just need the bank to finally tick it off and say your loan's approved and you're good to go. After your loan's approved, we'll get the loan documents issued, you'll sign them, and you'll be on your way to settlement, which is when you take over ownership of the new home. We've created a detailed home buying checklist that breaks down all the steps further. Check it out in the link below and on our website. Now, I know that's a pretty brief overview of the home buying process. We have a detailed video on that. But feeling overwhelmed with this process is completely normal. It can look really complex, but it's not insurmountable. Try and take it one step at a time. Just focus on the current stage, not the entire end-to-end process. Use our downloadable checklist to keep you on track of the process, where you're at, and what the next step is. Don't be afraid to ask questions of your mortgage broker and the team that works with you, and celebrate some of the small wins along the way. Each step completed in the home buying process is progress. Now let's talk about something many home buyers experience, but few discuss openly: buyer's remorse and unexpected issues. It's that sinking feeling that you get after making a big purchase, or when you encounter problems you didn't anticipate. Buyer's remorse is more common than you think, but let me take you through a couple of real life scenarios and how people cope with them. The noisy neighbor. Sarah bought her dream apartment only to discover her neighbors were night owls with the love of loud music. Here's how she coped. She approached the neighbors politely and reached an agreement on some quiet hours. She invested in some noise-cancelling headphones when she needed extra quiet and tried to focus on the positives of her apartment, like the great location and natural light. Number 2, the longer commute. Tom found his commute to work was a bit longer than he anticipated. His solution? He started using his commute time productively, listening to podcasts and audiobooks. Speaking of, you should check out our podcast. He negotiated some work from home days with his employer to make it a bit easier with a commute in and out, and remind himself why he chose the location. He wanted more space and a great community, which was part of his original buyer's brief. The best strategy I can give you to cope with buyer's remorse is focusing on the long term. Remember why you bought the property. Is it a stepping stone to your dream home or a long-term investment? Making it yours is an important thing too. Personalize your space to make it feel more like a home can make you appreciate what you have rather than the negatives. And I think give it time. Initial disappointments can fade as you settle in and you create more memories. Again, remember, no home is perfect. It's natural to have some doubts. The key is to focus on the positives and try and adapt to the negatives. Now let's talk about surprise problems that can crop up after you move in. Budgeting for maintenance and repairs. A good rule of thumb is to set aside 1 to 2% of your home's value annually for maintenance and repairs. For a $500,000 home, that's around $5,000 to $10,000 per year. This amount could be lower for an apartment, as your strata or body corporate fees can cover some of these ongoing maintenance issues with the external building and the common areas. The thing with houses is they get old, things break, and you just need to accept that. Even on brand new properties, there's going to be some routine maintenance, some minor repairs, like leaky taps and things that go wrong. Try not to get too disheartened by them and fix them where possible. As far as preventative measures, when you're early in the process and you're still trying to make an offer and get a home, you really want to make sure you take time to understand that building and pest report and get thorough inspections. I can't stress this enough. Back when you're in the making the offer process a couple of steps ago, you really want to invest in a building and pest inspection. If they have any red flags, you can raise that with the current owners now, look to renegotiate on the price, or potentially walk away if it's too much for you to handle. If you're buying a unit complex too, there's no harm in dropping by on the weekend, chatting to neighbors in the common area and see if there's any issues that they've heard about in the building. Take time to research the area, more specifically around flood and crime risk, if there's any other area specific issues that you are concerned about. Even look at the sales history of the property. If it's been turning over every 6 months, there could be some issues there that you're not aware of. While you can't prevent every issue, being proactive upfront can save you a lot of stress and money in the long run. Whew. We've covered a lot of ground today talking about the biggest fears that keep first home buyers up at night. Let's recap some of what we've gone through. Firstly, commitment anxiety. Remember, a mortgage isn't just a debt, it's an investment in future. And owning a home doesn't mean you're stuck. It gives you a stable base to build your life around. Financial fears. Yeah, buying a home is a big financial step, but with proper budgeting and by taking advantage of some of the government schemes, it can be more achievable than you think. Fear of making the wrong choice. By setting a clear criteria, doing thorough research and getting professional inspections, you can make an informed decision you're going to be happy with for years to come. Process overwhelm. Break the home buying journey into manageable steps, use some of our checklists, and lean on the experience of trusted professionals like us to help navigate the process smoothly. Buyer's remorse and unexpected issues. Just remember, no home is perfect. Focus on the long-term benefits, try and find solutions, and take preventative steps to minimize surprises. I think the most important thing to remember here is that these fears are completely normal. Every first home buyer experiences them to some degree. Don't let these fears hold you back from your dream of home ownership. With the right preparation, knowledge, and support, you can overcome these fears too and step confidently in your new home. I know it can be hard to remember sometimes when you're in the thick of it, but buying your first home isn't just a purchase. It's a milestone, an achievement, and the beginning of an exciting new chapter in your life. So you ready to take the next step of home ownership? Remember, at Hunter Galloway, we're here to support you every step of the way. Check out our website at huntergalloway.com.au to book a free consultation, or check out some of the videos we've got below on some more specific aspects of the home buying process. And don't forget to share your thoughts and experiences in comments below. Your story could be an inspiration or advice to another first home buyer that needs to hear it. Thanks for watching, and until next time guys, see you later.